That's right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this panel. The Israeli-Africa relationship when it comes to water technologies has going on for a long time, where we are trying to support the important goal of enabling access of fresh water to every single person in the planet and in the continent of Africa for this discussions matter. But I think something new came up to the table, and that's the development of the digital technologies, which are emerging in the last 10 years, or, it's a continuous thing, which are bringing a new potential to maybe solve old problems and big challenges that we have with water access and water quality in the continent in maybe new ways, and that could be more innovative and effective. This is, of course, very exciting for both sides, but also has its own challenges that are laying next to the opportunity. So we thought it would be very interesting to have this discussion and to open a little bit of the challenges and the opportunities in this upcoming move to digital technologies in the water sector. We have 3 trade and economic missions in Africa. I head the trade and economic mission in Ghana, together with my colleagues in South Africa and Kenya. I would think all 3 of us see the water sector as one of our important, happy to support any initiative from any side to help promote this really important cause in the continent. And I want to thank each one of the participants here for joining us. I myself more about how we could do this, what are the challenges and the opportunities, and how we can help support this move. So thank you again for everybody. And I'm looking forward for the interesting discussion. Chagit, please.
Thank you very much, Ayelet. And really pleased to be here together with 3 panelists from Ghana, South Africa, and the UK to discuss this important topic. My name is Chagit Freud, and I'm from the PEARS Program for Global Innovation. We're a non-governmental nonprofit who's been working in Israel for the past 12 years on connecting the Israeli innovation ecosystem here in Israel with partners on the other side and development challenges, looking to fulfill the potential that Israeli technologies have to create positive change around the world. And in our context today, looking forward to a discussion around how can we connect the Israeli water sector and specifically when it comes to digital water technologies with some geographies in sub-Saharan Africa. And I'm looking forward to a fascinating discussions which would help us move from a conversation to action on this critical and important topic. So with that said, I'd like to ask our panelists to introduce themselves and share with us some background both on the organization that they're working for and the geography which they are from and some of their background as to what is happening in the water sector. And I'd like to start with Dr. Clifford Barimana, who is joining us from Accra in Ghana. So Clifford, if you can unmute yourself and introduce. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. As I said earlier on, my name is Clifford Brimer. I'm a managing director for Ghana Water Company. Ghana Water Company is a public utility provider for the urban areas of Ghana. For the rural areas of Ghana, we have another agency called Community Water and Sanitation Agency. And so my activities are restricted to only the urban centers. Ghana Water Company is a very old public utility company. So we are managing a very old infrastructure and systems that are as old as 55 years. We are still managing them as we are today. And so we have some operational challenges, but for technology, within the constraints, we still are applying some of them to see how we can do our best. So we restrict ourselves to those that are connected and try to also see if we can extend to the new residential areas. Our consumptions are relatively low, not because demand is not there, but because we have limited infrastructure. And so there are a lot of challenges that we always solicit external supports to help us deliver. Ghana Water Company is ready to work with anybody. Currently, we dealing with some 2 Israeli companies that are into production and distribution. We've just had a sort for one of them. We've gotten another parliamentary approval for the second one, and the sod cutting will take place within the shortest possible time. I have 13 operational regions where we do distribution. We have 3 production centers that produce water for us to actually distribute. Our population is, our connections are about almost 700,000. And for us, the household size for some of our communities are up to 10. And so if you are looking at 700,000 people, you should be thinking of, you are dealing with about 700,000 connections. You should be thinking of dealing with about 7 million individuals. And so these are some of the issues that we deal with in Ghana, because we have a community that is communal in nature. And so there are certain things that we do that we have to take those things into consideration. I think for the introductory section, that's what I can present for my colleagues. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Barimana. I'd like to ask Michelle Herding, who's joining us from Johannesburg, South Africa, to introduce herself and discuss a bit the situation in South Africa.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Michelle Herding. I'm the founder and managing director of Legacy Water Solutions. So it is a private company. Our company is working in different sectors. Mining in South Africa is a very big sector. So we're very active in the mining sector. We're also very active in the agricultural sector, also in industry, factories, and also in municipalities. Our focus is water processing, so to analyze the client's current condition of water and then design a solution. So we have labs where we test the client's water. We then give them a report of what the status of their water is. We then measure that against the compliance of the municipality where they are, and we will then design a solution to get to at least the compliance. But further to that, also for reuse. So we will then also design the water plant in such a way that they can also reuse the water, and it's the client's spec to what level. And then we would also project manage the project for them, and we can also take over the service level agreement, so we can put an engineer on their site to make sure that the water plant works sufficiently. That is mostly in industry and also in the mining sector. Then agriculture, our focus is slightly different. Sometimes it's water infrastructure, and sometimes it's water solution of whatever kind. It could even include something like drip irrigation for them.
Thank you very much, Michelle. I'd like our last speaker joining us from the UK, Umair Alam, to introduce himself.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Umair Alam. I'm a technology consultant at ISLE. And ISLE is a technology consultancy. We offer a number of services around promoting new technologies and bridging the gap between water utility and technology provider, with the view to accelerate the rate of commercialization of technologies. We have offices around the world. There are 65 or more employees now. And as I kind of touched on, our work is really about uncovering technologies that meet the needs of our clients. And more recently, we've been involved in digital projects and helping and supporting water utilities on their digital transformation journey.
Thank you very much. So, well, this panel is pre-recorded, and we're hoping to have the participant of the Digital Water Conference logging in and hearing our discussions. And among them are over 40 Israeli water companies which have some technologies in the digital space. And we assume, or we know, that some of them are not highly familiar with some countries in sub-Saharan Africa and might not know, the setting on the ground very well. So we would love each of the panelists to share from their perspective what are some of the opportunities in the water sector and what can digital water technologies do to address some of the challenges on the ground. So Maher, if you can start by addressing this from the perspective of your consultancy work.
Absolutely. Thank you, Hagit. So we know that the water industry of the future will be smart and efficient, but to take a step back and discuss briefly some of the challenges that we encounter when we speak with utilities, particularly in the developing world, these would include urbanization, and from that, the need to increase loads. So technologies are looking at ways to future-proof for population growth and urbanization. The other big challenge we find is aging infrastructure. So existing infrastructure that has been in place for quite some time, or perhaps not been in place for that very long, but the material used weren't of the very best. And so condition assessment technologies that help support investment planning and renewals. And the other is water scarcity. And when we discuss that in the developing world, it is especially important to avoid water losses in arid regions where water isn't so plentiful. It becomes a more important resource more than it already is. And what can digital technologies offer? Well, there's advantage in disruptive innovation, but plenty of opportunity to improve operational efficiencies, reduction in water losses and energy consumption, and increasing service reliability from assessing those aging assets for timely replacement. So those would be a few areas where I feel opportunities can address some of the key challenges that we face now.
Thank you. Dr. Barima, we would love to hear your opinion from the perspective of activities in Ghana. Where are some of the opportunities to incorporate digital water technologies as it comes to your current operations and needs? And please unmute yourself. Sorry.
Thank you very much. For us in Ghana Water Company, there are a lot of opportunities where digitization can help improve our efficiency. One area where the company itself is working on to improve is our billing system. A billing system where we take away the human interface in the operation. Because currently, somebody will have to go to the consumer's premise, manually read the meter, and transmit. Those times we'll have to record manually, send it to the office, they will type it into the computer, print it, and then the bill comes up. We have gone a further step by ensuring that you still visit the consumer's premise, you use a device to read the meter, and then electronically transmits to the billing system where it is processed. It has reduced the number of days that we used to spend on this, but we still need to get improvements. When somebody wants connection into the person's home, the person will have to physically go and fill a form. which we think we can do all this electronically for the system to be monitored and actually approval given electronically for the connection to be done. So this is where we have, it is not possible for me as the managing director. It's not possible for my regional directors. It's not possible for the district director to be able to sit in the office and monitor our network. We are not there. And so if there is a leakage, if there's a burst pipe, you will have to get somebody to announce or to call to report for you, to be able to also now deploy your staff to find means of transport and move to the locality and then fix the burst. And because of that, the time between bursts and repairs is something that is making us lose a lot of water and lose a lot of money to the company. It's a potential area that we think we can get intervention, so that with a click of a button, sit in my office, I'm able to tell that there's a leakage in a particular location. Electronically move that report to an officer who will also detail staff to go there and get it repaired. So it's an opportunity that people can come in to work for us. Our non-revenue water keeps going up because of these two issues, because of the billing and then the leakage. And so we are unable to even assess which of the areas that is causing us a lot of the losses. And so if you have a digitized system, you should be able to apportion that for the losses that Ghana Water Company is experiencing, 30% of it probably is coming from commercial, and then maybe the 70% is fiscal losses, or the vice versa. But this is an opportunity that for now we cannot deploy. And I know technology is elsewhere where it can be brought to us and then we can adopt it. So it's creating a lot of inefficiencies in our systems. When there's pressure, low pressure in your pipelines, nobody monitors. You might not be able to tell. And so your customers might not be getting water. You are sitting in your office thinking the water is getting there. And so pressure loggers are not there for somebody to even be able to see that once pressures are low here or once there's no pressure here, what it means is that there's no water flowing into the pipes. And so for us as an old utility, the opportunities abound. Even for now, the raw water that we use, the quality is changing. The quantity is reducing. And so if there are other technologies that can help us pushing more water into the system, it's something that we will welcome. And we are sure that Israel, with limited water resources, but comfortable with the volumes that they are able to give to their people.
Thank you. You've covered many fascinating topics, and I'm sure our listeners
For
have
Ghana Water Company,
sorry, go ahead.
There are a lot of opportunities that are bound for people to come in so that we will start discussion and make sure that they help us to execute. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Clifford. I'm sure that the audience is geared, as you mentioned, so many of the topics that the companies which are part of this event are dealing with. Michelle, we'd love to hear your perspective looking at both the mining and the agriculture sector in South Africa, and what are some of the opportunities that you're recognizing for digital water technologies over there?
Thank you. Yes, I am going to focus less on utilities and more on other sectors. Our company do not focus on utilities much. If you look at a pie chart of the sectors that we serve, utilities or municipalities are the smallest portion. Therefore, I think it would be best for me to comment on agriculture and the other sectors. So I know that no consumer wants to hear what I've got to say about the cost of water, but I do communicate this message often and without fear that water in South Africa is too cheap. All consumers pay too little for water. And if you don't pay enough for water or for anything, you tend not to respect that. So the cost of our water, this could be as a utility, it could be the farmer, it could be industry, any of the sectors that I mentioned, water is really very cheap in South Africa. And we are also a water scarce country. So we have had the opportunity of visiting Israel many times, and we've been to previous WATEX and Agritechs and visited many companies, even the kibbutz, and we can see the cost of water is a lot higher, but then water is more precious to people that pay more. So water solutions that's then offered is viewed against the cost that a consumer is currently paying. So in a very serious drought in the Western Cape over 2 or 3 years that really culminated in a very bad situation in 2018, some of the delegates must have heard about Day Zero in Cape Town, where they honestly thought the taps will run dry. People obviously then started looking at, what is alternative water. Now we have alternative energy, but the sun, coal, we've got the sun and wind, but we don't have an alternative to water. So we need to save water, we need to process water. Now, if you then look at the cost of that infrastructure, let's use a water processing plant as an example where water is processed to potable water standard for reuse. The infrastructure capital cost is expensive, therefore your kiloliter water rate is also expensive, which is usually more than what the consumer is currently paying. And I'm again not talking about utilities only, I'm really talking about private sector. Now, if that cost of water is taken as a comparison versus the water that is available, it is viewed as expensive. Therefore, what we tend to do is we try and tell consumers or our clients that there is a difference between the value of water and the cost of water. Now, when it is scarce to the point where Cape Town believes that the taps could run dry, then the cost of water is irrelevant if you've got no water or limited water. Then it is the value of water that is important. So I think in South Africa, I will focus my comment for this question on this point, that therefore saving water, if you don't pay a lot for a hose pipe that's running in your garden or somewhere, then you tend to waste some water because it's not very expensive until there is such a severe drought, or until the consumer realizes that it's an infinite, a finite resource. It's not infinite, it's a finite resource, and there is no alternative to water. So I do believe for South Africa, the shock wave that it caused when Cape Town, which is by far the most developed city and the most advanced utility, although Johannesburg is the biggest for business, people then started realizing it could really happen that you don't have water. And now you see behavior change and people value water more. So in that is an opportunity for digitization, that if people can see on an app on their phone, be it a consumer of a home, a factory, or another industry, what water volumes come in or go out, or various measurements, various sensors in various places, and it's up front on their mind because they can see it on an app on their phone or on their laptop. When they see it, they're aware of it. So I believe there's an opportunity in that space.
Thank you, Michelle. I think it's fascinating to think about, once the awareness is there and the understanding of how limited water are, then I guess the appetite for better management and measurement and analysis and individuals having this power in their own hands is rising with that. And I'm sure and we also know from the Israeli experience that awareness makes a lot of difference in the level of curiosity and willingness to invest in those things. I'd like to also have Umayya, from your perspective in the fields where you work, what are some of the opportunities for digital technologies?
Thank you. Yeah, it's an interesting point that Michelle makes on the cost of water and raises a wider question on funding and there are infrastructure, especially with the capex cost for infrastructure, but from a technology standpoint or developments that are supporting digitalization, the two big areas in the way we see it is data and having enough data to analyze and really understand what's going on, and the other one would be actually talking to one another, whether that's systems or actually people. And what we find in two key developments, being IoT and digital twins, they both serve one another to support that cause. I mean, developments in IoT will support information transfer from all regions, really. Data collection from remote areas would be made possible with low power and wide area networks. And that would then also reduce the need for asset maintenance. And what that means is, coming back to Clifford's earlier point on remote monitoring, it would do away with the requirement for maintaining assets. You would have a single version of the truth with the data feeding into one central system. And a number of Israeli technologies offer that. Takadu comes to mind with their central event management system, in providing that single version of the truth from where you can analyze the data. And then before we go on to discuss what needs to be done, we have a clear picture on water network behavior. The second is digital twins. And IoT really provides the data for the digital twins. A digital twin, if people were wondering, is it really a digital replica of a physical asset. So a digital twin can be applied to a pump, a pumping station, or an entire treatment works. And I think that's the beauty of it. It can be as complicated or as granular as you like, but can be scaled down too. And what that does really is enable a number of data management systems to work together. So you have customer billing feeding into water metering, and so one works off the other, such that water resource management is holistic and comprehensive, but also in a wider scale, and we might not be there just yet, but to look ahead and look forward, utility management is streamlined because everything works off of each other, and that again aligns more with circular economy themes that is being talked about more recently. So I guess in a nutshell, there's developments in IoT, there are developments taking place in digital twin. You need the technologies, but you need people to come on board with that too. And I think when you have that working in cohesion, it makes for a very a powerful proposition.
Thank you. I think your comment here is taking me towards the next question, which we've opened up an array of opportunities where digital technologies have the ability to support and make positive change within the sector and allow for allow utilities to better serve their customers. But again, and I'm sure the audience which is hearing us is excited about the potential. Having said that, we also know that there are some challenges, and I'd love to hear your view, and I'd like to start with you, Dr. Barima, on what are the challenges of going into the market? And you mentioned that you are working with 2 Israeli companies, so we would really like your experience and understanding of what are some of the challenges in incorporating digital technologies. You mentioned the challenges you have with infrastructure and the array of needs, and would like to also hear about the interaction of I mean, Umar mentioned the people's aspect of this, so the interaction between Israeli tech companies to representative on your side, and what are some of the challenges you've encountered or hopefully overcome?
One major issue from our side of the world is you are introducing digitization to improve efficiency. But what it means is that a lot more people are going to lose current jobs. And so there is this resistance to accept the new technology. Especially if you take, for example, when we're trying to introduce the e-billing system, where you will do this electronic billing, a lot of the meter readers had a challenge and found a way of trying to frustrate the intervention. We had to call them and to draw their attention that they were not going to lose their jobs, but rather they were going to change rules. That instead of going to read the meter and go through all the manual processes, what we will now ask them to do at the same remuneration is to go out there, interact with our customers, get new customers for us, take customers' complaint, and immediately help us to resolve them. And so creating a unit that we'll call marketing for the company. And when they realized they were not going to lose their jobs, then they started accepting it. So these are challenges in introducing such technologies in our side of the world. The second one also is the infrastructure that you have. You want to put a SCADA system on a pipeline that is over 50 years old. Of course, there's going to be a challenge. And so before you can put such a technology, you will need to replace some of the weak pipelines. And replacing the weak pipelines means additional costs to you because you might not have planned to replace such a pipeline. And so the other challenge is the funding. That in trying to introduce technology, you might be incurring additional costs beyond what the digitization infrastructure is going to be. You need to have a lot of systems. Also, it is not everywhere in Ghana that you have telephone network. And some of this digitization will run on a proper telephone network. And so how are you going to run them? We on our own have tried to extend our internet facilities to all our districts. But there are areas where you still have your pipeline that do not even have any telephone network. And so sending an internet facility there becomes a problem. So these are some of the challenges that we'll encounter. And also, sometimes we want to put monitoring systems in place. And security within the communities are not adequate. You cannot be standing watching your facility 24/7. You might get a human being to watch because we don't have this remote monitoring system for ourselves. So you have that challenge of people vandalizing and trying to pilfer and take some items out of your equipment. So these are challenges that are real. And so in coming to our environment to deploy some of these things, we need to factor this into it. And in all this, for you to be able to stand up, you need additional costs because you need to provide certain security measures to make sure that your facilities are indeed protected. So these are some of the challenges that will confront anybody who wants to come in to do some of this program for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think you really, gave the exact elaboration of what it means to connect a tech to realities on the ground, and how when we do the feasibility assessment as to what needs to be done, we're not only looking to the plug and play where one system connects to the other and seeing the tech side of things, but also looking at how it affects the bigger picture and the importance of marketing and communication and sensitizing communities towards changes, and seeing the greater infrastructure, which is really something that I'll say with honesty that I think Israeli companies sometimes struggle to do, and need those strong partnerships and need connections on the other side, which could help them see a holistic picture, and joint work can, I think, can accommodate and answer some of that. Michelle would be happy to hear from you as well, some perspectives on the challenges. What are some of the challenges in introducing digital technologies from your view? And Umair will continue with you immediately after.
Okay, it's my turn.
Yeah.
Okay, I was listening carefully to the other participants and making some notes. Yes, IoT. It is very important, and we see how it changes behavior, because in our company, we've just in the last year started adding some sensors to the water systems that we built, and even putting water meters everywhere where the client allows us to. And as soon as the client, for instance, a factory, let's say a food and beverage factory, which we have in South Africa, they will then become aware of, for instance, their borehole pumping. How much water is pumped from the borehole. We put sensors there. We show them the incoming water. We show them the discharge water. And what we've seen, and it's a very, very elementary start to IoT, but what we see is we then give them a very basic app on a device, and depending the position the individual has in the company, it could be more regular and it could be high level, or it could be broken down into detail. But just the fact that they can see water usage on a half an hour, some is a 30-minute time interval, others are longer. And even we see where there's up to 1,000 workers in a factory working 7 days, 24 hours. Even in the social area, which we call a green area, they would put a TV screen, and they even show water usage. We also do energy solutions, so energy and water usage on the screen, on a dashboard. It's very elementary. I'm sure there will be some of the 40 Israeli companies that would think this is 101, but it is a good start, and we are seeing traction on that. We see that clients then, after 3 months or so, actually asks for more measurements. So in the agricultural space, we favor Israeli technology before any other technology. So we've worked with Netafim, Mana, Subplant. It's all about measurement. It's sensors or big data, but it's measurement. So we see in the agricultural space, the more they measure, the more they can obviously adjust. And as if they see it on one orchard or one vineyard, they obviously see that it's working and they extend it. So what we believe is, as soon as an industry is exposed to the digitization and they see the benefits, they then expand what they want to do with it. We, for instance, believe that a culture are moving to the consumer now, me as a consumer or any other consumer of a household. If the culture could be that we waste water to leave the tap running when we brush our teeth, down to that basic thing, or shower, or when we wash the car, if we could have something that then says, I have just used so much water, Because the cost is low, they'll probably say, okay, that wasn't too much in cost. But if we then relate, and I'm talking about culture, and I know it takes time, but if they can then relate it to liters, and we could relate it, for instance, to children in a village that's got no running water. You've just used 5 families' daily allowance for cooking and bathing, just filling your swimming pool or washing your car, then I think we can change culture. So, with such measurements, maybe to relate it to something, the water could have been used for something else, or it could have planted, half a hectare of vegetables and could have given some food to a village. And that people relate the waste of their water by seeing it on maybe a daily usage at a consumer level.
Thank you very much. Mr. Alam, I'd love for you to answer the same question. What are some of the challenges? And please, share with us your experience and try to enlighten us as to how come it's not so easy to see those things come into action.
Yeah, absolutely. We've discussed IoT and digital twins and how that will generate a shift in the way we develop and manage infrastructure with distribution, supply, and that interaction with customers. But this will require a paradigm shift in the perception of AI. I think we often have a dystopian view of AI. Robots are taking over, they'll take over our jobs. The reality is that human intervention is very much needed. But what AI can offer with automation is freeing up time for staff to take on more proactive tasks. But it is one that should be managed carefully. Digital technologies offer water utilities a lot of potential, and having a holistic view of their system promotes a better understanding of where and how problematic events occur. And that helps with better planning, response. And by using AI and data analytics, that can lead to preventative action using insight. So that's kind of almost anticipating the event before it occurs and taking action in that way. An example, if I could give one, is of Takadu and what they offer. And this is an Israeli company that offers a water network monitoring solution. What this does is it's able to detect and manage events in the water distribution network and alert on network problems such as leaks before they occur. But of course, there is the infrastructure aspect to it. There is some type of hardware required as a sensing element. But in addition to the software and the algorithms which are applied, it does help with preventative maintenance, which again would require the use and time of operators to support. So to summarize, we do need people, but we need technology if we want to capitalize off those efficiencies. And when they go hand in hand, I think we could really look forward to a positive future with water network management.
I appreciated that even though when the question was addressing challenges, you've answered it very positively, and I think it's important to set the spirit. As our time is almost coming to its end, I'd like to finish with the last words of advice. Given your extensive experience on working in those sectors, and to our audience of mostly Israeli companies listening in and saying, hey, I might have a solution that could address water loss or billing systems, or better data management and the other topics that we've discussed in the past 40 minutes. Can you provide some practical advice on how to start engaging, and what would be your tips for success for Israeli companies who are interested in being more active in sub-Saharan Africa? And I'd like to open with Dr. Clifford Brima. Please unmute yourself. And
yeah, thank you very much.
You've been to Israel, so you know our ecosystem quite well, and you know the players. So in the Israeli spirit, feel free to be direct and and share from your practical experiences to some of the things that could help or make an Israeli company succeed or not.
Thank you very much. We are operating within an economy or an environment that we're still fine-tuning, trying to get things right. And so having a company coming from a well-defined society into our society will have to be a little more patient with the activities that they might be confronted with. You might just think a press of a button, something should be done. It doesn't happen in our environment. I am running a public utility company owned 100% by the government of Ghana. We have financial laws, we have procurement laws, we have tax losses, a loss that I, as the managing director, cannot change. And so you coming within such an environment, you should know that yesterday, one or two Israeli companies might have gone through certain processes and got certain taxes, but the government has decided to change the law. And so you get into the environment, because we are still fine-tuning our country, you might come in when some laws have been reviewed, changed, and you should not be in the position that because one happened to the other person, it should happen to you. And you might just look at what current laws say, so that if you know what the current laws are telling you to do, you just go by them. But if you want to say somebody else got some reliefs, and for that matter, you should get that relief, it might not work. It delays the processes that will get the Israeli companies into our system to operate. And so the advice I will give them is they should have an open mind. We have a growing society, and so we still want to be changing a lot of things to be the best. We are not there yet. So you might be coming in when certain changes would have been taking place. It is for them as the companies to realize that they will have to go by the new laws. But we should not be rigid as if probably an Israeli law has been 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, it has not been changed. But that is not the case in Ghana sometimes, especially things that run within the economy. And this is one important thing that I am saying this out of experience, actually. I am saying this out of experience, actually. So I just want them to have that in mind so that when they come, we have very beautiful cooperation and then they get what they want. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I'd just like to echo this extremely important message. You know, it's a different country, it's a different regulation, it's a different structure. Whenever a company enters a new domain, it needs to take that time and breadth span to learn, connect, understand, get familiar with the regulation and understand the realities, and also understand the constraints that the partners are facing. And without realizing this, it would be very hard to operate. Thank you very much for this important remark. Meyer, would love to hear from you some tips to success or advice as to how to start engaging.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is, technology will play a big role with developments in digitalization, and I think the opportunities will become clearer over time. We do need to encourage innovative thinking, but with regards to technologies, Israeli technologies are very much leading the pack. And so for me to advise on what to offer is teaching a duck how to suck eggs. What I would say is, and from hearing what the doctor had to say, developing countries and Africa is open for business, and perhaps the focus should be on understanding the culture such that you could foster a working relationship. And so my 2 cents worth would be for better engagement and collaboration, and not just between the the municipalities and the technology providers, but even amongst technology providers. So to foster a mindset which is cooperative and not always competitive. And I think if technologies are able to work together to deliver on a common goal, playing to their strengths, I think that offers promise and a lot of potential.
Thank you for this important remark. Maybe it's important to highlight here that sometimes technology companies are coming with one feature, which is never a standalone. And you know, when we look at big water projects and infrastructure projects, they're compiled of, you know, different pieces. And usually a tech company is not a standalone, and so it's important to collaborate, work with aggregators, or join hands with matching technologies to reach this goal. So thank you for this important remark. And I'd like to end with you, Michelle, and hear a bit from you and your experience working with Israeli companies in the past. What are some of the tips for success?
I know that you're not looking for compliments, you're looking for straightforward comments. But we have a very good relationship with the Israel Trade Mission in South Africa, and the team under Amit's leadership, but also everyone that's focused, be it on agri or water, are very active. And they are active in the industry, and we've been working with them for a couple of years, and we've been in contact with a lot of Israeli companies, some less successful, some more successful. But I think the approach is right. I think the Trade Mission is doing good work. I think webinars like today's and others during the lockdown did a good job on keeping Israel uppermost in mind. And therefore I'll again focus on agriculture more than on government, because we must be honest that it is difficult in South Africa to get into government with Israeli companies, but there's other ways, and therefore we don't approach the municipality or the national government directly. It's not our focus, but we do believe there's other ways of structuring it. For instance, in a type of a triple P, where perhaps the private sector takes a bigger share than public, but that it's with the approach to solve public problems as well, citizens' problems as well. So we are trying to find different routes, maybe to communities, through a private involvement, private companies that would own or even adopt a community, and then involve Israeli companies. Links that we have with Ben Gurion University or with the Arava Institute. I think, and it's a combined effort of finding those solutions. Just on the agriculture, I think that in the agriculture sector in South Africa, Israel is highly respected. So it's not difficult for us to bring an Israeli company with an agri-tech solution, high-tech or low-tech, traditional or more advanced, into audience for agriculture. But we often see that it is then compared to other European countries' solutions. So obviously it must be fit for purpose, not too expensive, fit for purpose. We don't need a Rolls Royce when, another model will do the job. So it's just to be fit for purpose. But I think that the traction has always been good, but sometimes we don't close it because of comparisons, but the involvement has been great, the commitment has been great. There's one or two things that I could maybe say about when you start with one group and they put effort in, not to also then get another horse and get on that horse's back and try and run with two horses, but for the Israeli company to stick to a horse and back that horse up to a point where we see, okay, we can open doors. If the doors close completely, yes, find a different route. But I think that's one comment I can make. Don't try and run with two or three horses.
Thank you. This is also very important to highlight that in some African countries, alongside opportunities to collaborate with the government on national projects and national infrastructure, there is a lot of potential, both within the agriculture sector, with mining sector, with the industry, in doing important work within the water sector, not necessarily and directly only through the government. And it's an important highlight for us. It's really unfortunate that our time is up. I would have loved to engage in the discussion and hear much more, but I hope that this is an invitation to continue the conversation. I'd like to first thank the Foreign Trade Administration in the Ministry of Economy for convening this panel and making sure that the discussion as to what can Israeli technologies do within the African water sector is part of the discussion, and I'm sure it's been important. To the audience that is listening to us, do please remember that the economic attachés in their offices in Johannesburg, in South Africa, in Accra, in Ghana, and in Nairobi, in Kenya, are waiting to hear from you and happy to collaborate. And so if part of this discussion was intriguing for you and you would want to explore opportunities, they would be your gateway to the market, and don't hesitate to reach out to them. And they're also extremely nice and lovely people, so that's on a personal note. I'd like to thank our three panelists for taking the time and joining us in the middle of the day for this discussion, and we're really grateful for your important inputs, and we hope that the collaboration with all three of you continues. So in that note, I'll end and wish the rest of you, all of you, a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.